Chinelo sat in her living room one sunny afternoon, deep in thought. She was 34 years old, but she was not married and had no child. People mocked her and turned away from her. Only her mother stood by her and her best friend, Marianne. "My dear, keep praying and hoping. One day, everything will be fine," her mother always told her. Chinelo was the only child of her parents. Her father had been a very rich man. When he died, she was just 16 years old. He left a great fortune for Chinelo and her mother, but his family wanted to take everything from them. They fought hard, trying to steal the properties. However, Chinelo's father was a very wise man. Before he passed, he gave Chinelo a small flash drive. "Keep this safe, my daughter," he told her. Inside the flash drive were all the important documents for his properties. After her father died, Chinelo and her mother grieved. But as time passed, Chinelo grew into a smart and strong woman. She took over her father's businesses and managed them well. Her uncles tried to fight her again, but this time she took them to court. The judge ruled that her uncles must never come near the properties again. Finally, there was peace. Even though she had wealth and peace, Chinelo was still unhappy. No man had ever asked for her hand in marriage. This troubled her mother greatly. She prayed every day, hoping her daughter would find a loving husband. On her 34th birthday, Chinelo did not feel like celebrating. Each birthday reminded her that she was still single. "Chi, my love," like her mother fondly called her, "please cheer up. Today is your birthday. Be thankful for life," her mother said softly. But Chinelo looked away. Chinelo wiped a tear from her eyes. "Mama, I just wish I had a husband and children by my side." Her mother sighed. "God's time is the best, my dear. Let's just keep praying. Please get dressed. Your friends are waiting downstairs," her mother added. Chinelo sighed, but got up and dressed. Downstairs, there was a small party with cake and food. Her close friend, Marianne, was there too. Marianne was like a sister to her. Unlike Chinelo, Marianne was married and had a child. She always wished that Chinelo would find happiness too. One evening after the birthday, Chinelo and Marianne were talking in the living room. Chinelo was scrolling through her phone when she suddenly smiled. She had just read an article about sperm donors and surrogacy. A bold idea came to her mind. "What if I get a sperm donor?" she said excitedly. "At least I will have a child, and no one will disturb me. The father will be unknown." Marianne's eyes widened in shock. "Are you serious, Chinelo? How can you even think of that? You don't want marriage, just a child, from a stranger? That's so strange," Marianne said. But Chinelo was already smiling. Her mind was made up. "Tomorrow morning, I will visit the hospital, and guess what? You will come with me," she said, proudly folding her arms. Marianne looked at Chinelo's determined face and sighed. "Fine, if that's what you want," she said, rolling her eyes. That evening, they continued talking and laughing, knowing that life would soon change for Chinelo. Chinelo, though skeptical at first, walked into the big hospital with her friend Marianne. The hospital was neat and well equipped, with nurses bustling about, attending to various patients. Upon arrival, they were asked to wait for the doctor who would attend to them. After a short while, a pretty nurse approached and informed them that they could see the doctor now. Inside the doctor's office sat a middle-aged man, around 45 years old, with graying hair and a warm smile. He ushered them in and they sat opposite him. The doctor, introducing himself as Dr. Maxwell, asked why they were there. Chinelo, initially nervous, gathered her courage and explained her situation. She wanted to conceive using a sperm donor. Dr. Maxwell listened carefully before responding with a reassuring smile. "Well, Miss Chinelo, we have a sperm bank here, and I will find a suitable match for you. However, we have a strict policy. We do not disclose the identities of our sperm donors to our patients, nor do we disclose our patients to the donors. This remains a confidential agreement. Chinelo agreed and signed the necessary documents. She was given an appointment, and within a few weeks, the procedure was completed. 2 weeks later, she discovered she was pregnant. Overjoyed, she shared the news with her mother and Marianne. Her mother, though initially hesitant, was happy at the thought of having a grandchild. As her pregnancy progressed, Chinelo and Marianne excitedly shopped for baby items. Months later, she gave birth to a bouncing baby boy whom she named Chinaza. Joy filled her heart as she embraced the wonders of motherhood. With the support of her mother and Marianne, life seemed perfect until something strange began to happen. On Chinaza's 6th birthday, his behavior took a troubling turn. He became rude to his mother and everyone around him, often isolating himself in his room and refusing to speak. He acted much older than his age, and this worried Chinelo deeply. One day, desperate for advice, she visited her mother and confided in her. Her mother, though shocked, reassured her that it was just a phase and it would pass. Then one evening, as Chinaza played with his toys, he suddenly let out a sharp scream. Chinelo, who was in the kitchen preparing dinner, rushed to him in panic. She held him close, searching his face with concern. "What is wrong, my love?" Chinaza looked up at her with an innocent yet haunting expression and asked, "Mommy, where is my daddy?" Chinelo's heart chattered. This was the 100th time her son had asked that question. Sitting beside him, she gently held his hand and forced a smile. "My love, your dad is not in the country. He traveled overseas, but when he returns, he will come to visit us." Chinaza's smile instantly faded, replaced with anger. "Mom, that is what you have always said. When will he ever come back? In school, everyone talks about their dad taking them shopping, but I have no dad to talk about. My classmate says he abandoned me. Some even says he's dead. Mommy, is it true?" Tears welled in Chinelo's eyes as she embraced her son tightly. "No, my love, that is not true. Your dad will be with us soon." The next day, Chinelo called the school principal, reporting the bullying and cruel remarks. The principal apologized, assuring her that strict warning would be given and the bullying would stop. But things only got worse. Chinaza's behavior deteriorated, his anger growing stronger each day. Then one fateful afternoon, Chinelo received a call that sent chills down her spine. Her son had attacked a classmate during a heated argument. The boy had called him a fatherless child, and in the blind rage, Chinaza had lashed out. As Chinelo sat in the principal's office apologizing profusely, she noticed a strange expression on the woman's face. The principal hesitated before speaking, her voice low and cautious. "Miss Chinelo, there is something you should know." Chinelo's breath caught in her throat. "What is it?" The principal exhausted sharply. "A man came by the school last week, asking about Chinaza. He claimed to be his father." Chinelo felt the room spin. "That's impossible," she whispered. "His father is a sperm donor. He doesn't even know Chinaza exists." The principal's gaze darkened. "Well, he seems to know, and he wants to meet his son." Chinelo's world crumbled in an instant. Who was this man? How had he found out? Had the hospital betrayed her trust? And most terrifying of all, what did he want with her son? Days turned into weeks, but Chinaza's behavior only worsened. He refused to eat, sometimes stayed locked in his room, and barely spoke to anyone. Chinelo tried everything. She bought him new toys, took him to the park, and even planned fun outings. But nothing seems to make him happy. One evening, as she sat beside him on his bed, he stroked his head gently. "My love, please talk to me. What is wrong?" she asked softly. Chinaza turned to her with teary eyes. "Mommy, I need to see my daddy," he whispered. Tears welled up in Chinelo's eyes. She had never imagined this day would come so soon. She had always believed that her love alone would be enough for her son, but now she saw how deeply he longed for a father. After putting Chinasa to sleep, she called Marianne. "I don't know what to do anymore, Marianne," she admitted. "I thought I was making the right decision by having a child through a sperm donor, but now Chinasa is hurting. He wants answers, and I don't have." Marianne sighed. "Chi, maybe it's time to find out more about his biological father. After all, you told me the other day that the school principal said a man came claiming to be Chinasa's father." Chinelo hesitated. "But the hospital has a strict policy. They won't tell me who he is. But what if there is a way?" Marianne said thoughtfully. Determined to help her son, Chinelo decided to return to the hospital. She requested an appointment with Dr. Maxwell, the same doctor who had handled her procedure years ago. When she entered his office, he greeted her warmly. "Miss Chinelo, it's been a while. How is your child?" "He's not doing well, doctor," she admitted. "He keeps asking for his father, and I don't know what to tell him. Please, I need to know who the donor was." Dr. Maxwell sighed. "You know our policy, Miss Chinelo. The identities of donors remain confidential." "But my son is suffering," she pleaded. "He needs answers, and I can't keep lying to him." The doctor remained silent for a moment, then leaned forward, his expression suddenly serious. "There is something you need to know," he said, taking a deep breath. "His name is Eric Dike. He was a random donor, but there is more to the story." Chinelo's brows furrowed. "What do you mean?" Dr. Maxwell exhausted deeply before continuing. "One of our nurses, Lydia Dike, was a sister. She was working here at the time of your procedure. When she saw your name on the recipient list, she deliberately suggested that Eric's sample be used for your insemination." Chinelo gasped. "Why would she do that?" "We don't know for sure," the doctor admitted. "But unknown to her, there was a hidden camera in my office. Later, when I reviewed the footage, I saw that she had secretly copied your details from our system onto a flash drive. When I confronted her, she couldn't give me a justifiable reason. What she did was a violation of hospital policies. So I had no choice but to fire her immediately." Chinelo's mind raced. Could that be why Eric showed up at Chinaza's school to see his son? Dr. Maxwell's voice cut through her thoughts. 2 years after your insemination, Eric contacted us multiple times, asking for a way to meet you. But due to our confidentiality policy, we couldn't disclose anything. Chinelo's face dropped in shock. The doctor reached for a file and slid it across the desk. "Maybe you should contact him." Chinelo sat frozen, unable to believe what she had just heard. She had always assumed her donor was a complete stranger. But now she realized there had been an unseen force guiding her journey to motherhood. With trembling hands, she picked up the file. At the bottom of the page, a phone number was written. That night, she stared at Eric's number, knowing that her life and her son's was about to change forever. Chinelo continued to stare at the number on the paper for a long time. A storm of emotions swirled inside her. Fear, confusion, curiosity. Who was Eric Dike? Why had the sister specifically chosen him to be a sperm donor? And most importantly, did she have the courage to call him? Miriam was the first person she called. "Chi, what are you waiting for? Call him," her friend urged. Chinelo sighed. "I don't even know what to say. What if he regrets his decisions? What if he doesn't want anything to do with Chinaza?" "Chinelo, he had been trying to reach out for 2 years," Marianne reminded her. "That means he wants to be involved. Just put the call through now. Big head." Miriam laughed as she ended the call abruptly. Taking a deep breath, Chinelo dialed the number. Her hands were shaking as the phone rang. "Hello," a deep calm voice answered. Chinelo hesitated for a moment, then found her voice. "Hello, is this Eric Dike?" There was silence on the other end, then a slow intake of breath. "Yes, who is this?" "It's Chinelo Kafo," she said softly. "The mother of your son." The silence stretched longer this time. When Eric finally spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. I can't believe this. I've been waiting for this call for so long. Please, can we sit somewhere and talk? Chinelo, I just want us to see. Okay, Chinelo finally said as she ended the call. Relief rushed over her as she laid on her bed smiling. Finally, everything would be alright soon, she thought to herself. They arranged to meet at a quiet cafe in town the next evening. Chinelo arrived first, her heart pounding. Then the door opened and a tall, well-dressed man in his late 40s walked in. He had a strong presence, his kind eyes and a confident smile. As soon as he spotted Chinelo, he walked straight to her and sat down. You look just like I remembered, he said with a small smile. Chinelo frowned. Remember? Have we met before? Eric took a deep breath. Yes, Chinelo, we met years ago, before I became a sperm donor. Her eyes widened in shock. I don't understand. Eric looked at her with an intensity that made her heart race. Chinelo, I knew your father. She froze. My father? Yes, Eric said. I worked as a junior manager in one of his companies when I was younger. He was a great man and he always spoke about you with so much love. But after his death, I left the company and moved abroad for many years. Chinelo was speechless. So, why did you become my sperm donor? Eric sighed. When I returned to Nigeria, I heard about your struggles. How you had fought for your father's properties. How people mocked you for being single. I knew I wanted to help you, but I didn't know how. Then my sister Lydia told me about the sperm donor program at the hospital where she worked. That day when she got home, she gisted with me about how her day had gone, and so she mentioned a lady came to the hospital for a sperm donor. I was amused because it sounded weird to me. I wondered why would a single lady want to have kids without a husband, and I suddenly got interested. I told her to get me the information of the lady that needed a sperm donor, and when she did, I was shocked when I realized it was you. Chinelo Okafo, I was unhappy and an idea struck me. What if I become the donor for you? And the rest was a history with the help of my sister Lydia. Chinelo mind spun. You mean you chose to be the donor because of my father? Eric nodded. Yes, and also because I admired you, Chinelo. You are strong, independent and kind. I never thought you would reach out, but I kept open. She looked at him with wide eyes. Why now? Because I never stopped thinking about my son, he admitted. I did not plan to be a father this way, but knowing I had a child out there changed everything for me. Chinelo's heart pounded. This was all too much to process. Chinelo, I don't want to disrupt your life, Eric said gently, but if you allow me, I'd love to meet my son. She exhausted shakily. He's been asking about his father for years. Eric, maybe it is time. A few days later, Chinelo sat Chinaza down in their living room. My love, remember how you always ask about your daddy? Chinaza nodded eagerly. Yes, mommy. She smiled softly. Well, you are going to meet him today. His eyes widened. Really? He came back from overseas? Chinelo hesitated but then said, something like that. That evening, when Eric walked into the house, Chinaza stared at him with wide eyes. For a moment, there was silence. Then Eric knelt down and opened his arms. Hello, Chinaza, he said gently. I am your daddy. For a second, Chinelo held her breath, afraid of how her son would react. Then, without hesitation, Chinaza ran into Eric's arms, hugging him tightly. Daddy, you came! Tears welled up in Chinelo's eyes. Watching them together, she realized something. Her son was happy, and for the first time in a long time, so was she. As Eric lifted Chinaza into his arms and laughed at her, Chinelo knew that their story was just beginning. After Eric's first meeting with Chinaza, he couldn't stay away. Almost every weekend, he visited to spend time with his son. They would go to the park, eat ice cream, and play games together. Chinelo watched from a distance, seeing how quickly Chinaza bonded with his father. At first, she was nervous. She had spent years raising her son alone, believing she didn't need a man, but something about Eric's presence felt right. One evening after dinner, Chinelo found herself sitting beside Eric on the balcony, watching Chinaza play in the living room. "Thank you," she said softly. Eric turned to her, surprised. "For what?" "For being there," she admitted. "For Chinasa. And for me." Eric smiled. "I wouldn't want to be anywhere else, Chinelo." Their eyes met, and for the first time, she saw more than just her son's father. She saw a man who truly cared. As months passed, Eric's visits became more frequent. He and Chinelo spent more time together, talking late into the night after Chinasa fell asleep. Slowly, feelings started to grow between them. One afternoon, Chinasa, full of excitement, wore his mother's wig and ran to her in the kitchen where his mother was cooking. "Mommy, are you and Daddy best friends now?" he asked, tilting his head. Chinelo chuckled. "Why do you ask, my love?" "Because Daddy always looks at you like princes look at princesses in my cartoons." Chinasa giggled. Chinelo's cheek turned red. That evening, as Eric was about to leave, Chinelo stood at the door, hesitating. "Eric." He turned to her. "Yes?" She took a deep breath. Would you like to stay for dinner?" That night, something changed. They weren't just co-parents anymore. They were becoming something more, and soon they started dating, seeing each other more often. After months of dating, Chinelo knew it was time to introduce Eric to her mother. She invited him over for Sunday lunch. Mrs. Okafor was skeptical at first, but when she saw how Eric looked at her daughter, with love, respect, and admiration, she smiled knowingly. "Chi," she said, taking her daughter's hands. "I have prayed for this moment for so long." Tears welled up in Chinelo's eyes. "Mama." Mrs. Okafor turned to Eric. "You better take care of my daughter and my grandson." Eric smiled warmly. "With all my heart, Mama." A year later, Chinelo and Eric stood before family and friends, exchanging wedding vows. Chinasa was the happiest of all, running up to them after the ceremony and hugging their legs. Finally, he shouted, "Now we are a real family!" A year after their wedding, Chinelo gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. They named her Chizaram, meaning God has answered our prayers. As Eric held his newborn daughter in his arms and Chinaza hugged his mother tightly, Chinelo knew she had made the right choice. She had once thought happiness would never find her, but in the end, love had come in the most unexpected ways. And so, in a home filled with love, laughter, and the pitter-patter of little feet, Chinelo, Eric, Chinasa, and baby Chizaram lived happily ever after. The end.